Hey friend, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. Have you thought about finally starting that business now that your kids are older? Do you ever stay awake wondering how to mesh your passions into purposeful work? Do you have big, ambitious goals but feel overwhelmed or even unqualified to pursue them? Hey, I'm Gabe. Not too long ago, I longed for the confidence to start an online business. I just wanted to make a difference outside my home bubble using my gifts. But I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough. I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough time. Until I realized something huge. My kids need me to be their example, and they need to see me win. And yours do too. In this podcast, you will learn how to clarify your goals, plan with purpose, and ditch your distractions. If you're ready to make an impact and an income, all for the glory of God, then you're in the right place. As an avid runner, I believe life is one massive marathon. It's up to you to run your own race and to finish it well. So lace up those running shoes, pop in your earbuds, and let's do this thing. When things are tough, do you lean toward giving up right away? Or do you look for ways to push past the challenges and continue pressing forward? This is the question, right? It's so hard to stick with things when we're frustrated or feeling like nothing's working. We start questioning, well, is this really where God wants me? Shouldn't it be easier if it were? Or maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this at all. Those doubts and questions are normal when we get hit with obstacles. Every time I hit a roadblock, my first instinct is doubt. This happened as I worked to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It happened as I was writing my 2 books. And mind you, those books were all about mental toughness and success principles in crushing your goals. It happens each time I do something new in my business. Well, today I'm really glad you're joining me because I want to get a little personal and share about some adversity my oldest son has dealt with in this season, and it will help this all to come together. Now, I titled this episode, When Your Kid is Tougher Than You, because I taught him all about goal setting and mental toughness when he was younger, but he has far surpassed me in that category. Now I learn from him every day what it means to hit a roadblock and keep going. So the last week in May, we were away in Fort Worth for the men's gymnastics U.S. championships. Now, if you're on my email list, you may have seen a couple of messages from me about it. I don't really post on socials, so it's fun to get to share some life things with you there. Now, Ethan was there competing as a junior elite at champs, and it was actually kind of a big deal. So they do U.S. championships for the senior elite who are college age or older to see who will make national team to then move toward the Olympic trials. That's this year because it's an Olympic year. But for the junior elite, they qualify at nationals. So nationals is a big event for them. Only a certain few qualify for US championships, and they get to be in this big arena exposed to different college coaches, exposed to USA Gymnastics, and it's a place to start getting recognized and a place to also make national team, which then gives them extra opportunities. It gives them international exposure and all the different things. So it really is a big deal. But Ethan was competing injured. Now, I'll share more about the injury in a second, but I do have to preface this that so far every postseason, so every nationals, he's competed injured in some way. And I say this because he knows adversity. Now, I could go into other stories. There's a lot of other things that happened this season, but the injury postseason has been somewhat of a chronic trial for him. We're going to just pray for a very healthy season next year so we don't have to deal with this again. But here's a little rundown of it so you can kind of hear more of this, because I feel like when you hear this, you'll be like, man, I can't believe he hasn't quit yet, right? Because it just is so defeating when we hit these roadblocks time and time again. Because even when we get past the first one, there's always going to be another one at some point. We don't know when they're going to come, but it's a matter of how we react to them and how we go about them, what we do with them. That matters. All right. So the first year he was able to qualify for nationals, he had some type of piriformis issue, which essentially is that his butt hurt really bad and it was hard to turn over his legs. So it was really hard for him to do like vault or floor or things like that. But he did end up taking 6th on pommel horse. It was a great first experience. He didn't know what to expect coming into a big event like that, but it just stinks coming in injured. Now, the next year, COVID happened. And so he didn't get to compete at all because no one did. Their season was pretty much ripped away from them. And to make matters worse, he was healthy then. So it could have been a whole different experience, but it is what it is. So the third year of nationals was in Florida, and we decided to drive from Colorado. This is our was our second year being in Colorado, and that is a long drive if you didn't know. Like 31 hours long. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's long. We stopped halfway in Indiana to see some friends, and he worked out at a local gym there. But doing his dismount on high bar, he kind of got lost in the air and he smacked his head open on the bar. Blood everywhere. I'm really glad that I wasn't there. It was my husband who was there, but I would have freaked out. But 3 staples to the head later and no concussion, not sure how. We were driving to Florida and he competed 2 days later. He hit top 10 that year, but probably would have done much better had he not had a splitting headache. All right, so let's talk about fourth year of nationals. Now, he did something to his knee before regionals and wasn't able to compete regions. Because he was able to compete state and he had essentially qualified, had a qualifying score for nationals, he petitioned into nationals. And he was mostly healthy by then and had a decent 2 days, took sixth and made national team for the first time. This was a huge thing for him because it was a long time coming. And it really helped him to be able to get a little confidence and just see that all his hard work was paying off. All right, let's fast forward just a little bit to the next year of nationals. Now, granted, regionals was probably his best meet ever to that date. So he was so ready. And then about 2 weeks before nationals, he heard a pop in his hamstring area while doing high bar. Now, he wouldn't let us take him in until after nationals. So we didn't even know what it was, but we didn't even know if he could compete because he could hardly run on it. So what they did is they took out a lot of difficulty from his vault and floor routines and he competed. Now he hadn't practiced vault pretty much this whole time because he couldn't do it. Like he couldn't get over the vault table because it hurt so much. But watching him in pain was really, really hard at nationals. And I could see it all over his face, especially when he was running on vault. Like everyone saw it. They're like, oh my gosh, that does not look like him. And he did a very simple vault. But he ended up taking 12th. And the goal that year was to make US championships, which the top 18 make it. So he did what he wanted to do. And what his plan was to rest up and then be ready for champs because it was a few months later. But we found out that he had an avulsion fracture where his butt and hamstring attach. Like, how in the world do you compete on that? Like, he was competing on a broken limb. So that was about a 5-month recovery, and he missed champs and his chance to make national team again. All right, so this past nationals, when we went in May, what happened is since March, he started feeling shoulder pain. And we're like, no, you've been healthy all season, right? And he competed state with it. But we didn't know what kind of a pain it was. He has such a high pain tolerance that we just never know. He has worked out on broken limbs without us knowing. It was just feeling like a little bit of pain. And then, it eventually gets worse and we go check it out. So now I've learned I just take him in because I'd rather just know what we're dealing with. Well, despite this pain, and by regions, it got much, much worse. He had an amazing regions. But afterward, because of all the pain he had, he said, I think I need to go in. And he never lets us do that until after postseason. So the doc did an MRI and it looks like he has a labrum tear in his shoulder. So she said he could compete postseason and then we would figure it out. We'd figure out the healing process, what that means. Would it be rest? Would it be surgery? How long would it be? But he essentially competed nationals with a torn labrum. And with that pain, the pain was way more excruciating at this point. He actually did mostly well. He had a couple of really rough events that placed him near the bottom of qualifying for champs, but he did. And again, the whole point of nationals for him at this age is to qualify for US championships. And he really wanted to compete there since he didn't get to compete last year. So we let him. And because of the Olympic year, champs was just a few weeks after nationals rather than a few months, because essentially the US championships for the senior elites, like I had mentioned, college and older, they actually pick national team, and then that national team goes on to the Olympic trials. Ethan's a little bit too young for the Olympic trials at this point. His first chance will be the next trials. So, anyway, with a torn labrum in his shoulder, he competed regionals, nationals, and now US champs with severe pain that I would say most of us would have quit on. It was a whirlwind of emotions. And it was really hard for this mama, let me tell you, to watch him compete in pain. It was really hard to let him compete like that because I could see the pain written all over his face on each and every event, especially rings, as that takes the most shoulder strength. But everything in men's gymnastics uses shoulder. This meet was so stressful to me because I know how badly he wanted it. He wanted to prove that he has what it takes. He wanted USA Gymnastics to notice him. He wanted to show what he could do. And here's the other catch. Nobody really knew he was injured outside of the people that we have told. His coach knew, a couple of the college coaches knew because he was talking to them because it's recruiting season as well. But really, not very many people knew, and you wouldn't have been able to tell outside of the pain on his face. And guess what? He did what he needed to do to secure a spot back on national team. Now, this means that he has opportunity to compete internationally. He gets to train with the best of the best at camps throughout the year. Colleges will notice him. Like I said, it is recruiting season. So that's a lot of stress right there too, because we're trying to figure out where he's going to go. And hopefully he will get, a full ride or, different things like that. Like we are in the midst of all of the college things because he is going to be a senior next year. It is so crazy. But all of that hard work, all of that pain paid off for him, all of the adversity that he's gone through. The thing about all of these different nationals and him being injured so many different times in so many different ways is that he has learned how to fight through. He has learned how to recover well so that he doesn't burn out, so that he doesn't lose interest. I mean, like this season, it was hard to watch because it was almost like the love was falling out of him because he was feeling so deflated, but he still didn't give up. He has so much grit. And in case you're interested in seeing his videos at US Champs, I'll leave a link to the playlist for you. It's pretty cool because USA Gymnastics films all of them and puts them all on YouTube. So that's pretty cool. He also, my husband does a reflection video with all the videos as well. So once Ethan does his reflection, I can add that in the links as well. But here's the point of the whole story. The mental fortitude of this kid inspires me every day. He didn't let the stress get to him. He didn't quit when the going got tough and when most would have. I mean, how much would you fight for the things that he went through, right? He fought through the obstacles because he knew that's what they were. He knew they were obstacles in his way. He has a dream, a big dream, and he wasn't going to let adversity take him out. I know I taught him about going after goals and instilled some success principles into him at a really young age, which is great. And that's probably why he is the way he is today. But the roles have really reversed. He now teaches me every day what it means to set a goal and to stick with it, no matter the challenges that come our way. So, what do you do when your kid is tougher than you? When you see his persistence and grit? Well, you take notes, you learn from him. No one said as a parent we couldn't learn from our kids. I mean, they show us the good and bad of ourselves, don't they? What if we watched them fight for their dreams and learned a little in the process? When I want to give up, I think back to all that Ethan has gone through to get to where he is right now. If he's willing to fight another day, then I should be too. So my tip for stressful kids activities is to run 10 miles in the morning of competition day. No, I'm kind of kidding, but really that is my weird ritual. And Ethan really thinks it's weird. But running 10 miles calms my nerves and releases all the energy before I watch him do what he loves because that sport is dang hard. So if you're a runner out there, try running for release before the meet. I know my heart rate goes up way more watching him at gymnastics than it does when I run a marathon. So that just kind of helps calm me down. But my real tip, when the going gets tough and you want more than anything to give up, but you don't really want to give up because you have a vision for how it could be if you hit the goal you're working on. Here are a few things to do. One, Create a list of positive messages to speak over your goal. I actually need to get better at this again, too. My attitude shifts when I daily speak positive things. I like to create my list by creating a lies list first. So I write down all the lies I tell myself, and then I turn them around into a truth. For example, if I tell myself I'm not good enough, then I can shift that to say I am enough in Christ. Or maybe I tell myself I'm not sure anyone needs the message I'm sharing. Well, I can flip that to the truth that says this message is what helped me shift my perspective on goal setting and brought me to the finish line of the Boston Marathon. And I know God gave me this message to share with others so they can go after their own dreams and God given callings to affect others for the positive. When I'm weak, God is strong and he will carry me through. So create a list of positive messages for yourself today. Number 2, do one thing every day toward your goal. Even if that's speaking positive messages, that's all you get done today. Great. That's something. It's reinforcement about who you are and helps you build that confidence. Do something every day toward your goal. Little or big, it doesn't matter. And then third, find community. Find at least one person you can lean on, someone who will lift you up when you're down, someone you can really share deeper with. Someone you can tell about the roadblocks and the challenges. You can tell them, I feel like quitting today, so they can speak positive into your life. Be accountability partners for each other. Find a community. When you speak positive messages rather than focusing on the doubt, when you consistently do one thing toward your goal every day, and when you find someone who can be a support system for you, it makes pushing through the roadblocks that much easier. I challenge you to implement at least one of these things into your life this week, or to really focus on one of these you may have already been dabbling with and just get it to be a consistent thing. Make it natural. The last thing, I'm thinking about having Ethan on my podcast to talk about mental toughness and how to fight through adversity. Okay, well, I'm trying to convince him that he wants to talk to his amazing mama on this amazing pod. So we'll see if I can do that. Would you enjoy a conversation like that? He and I did something similar when he was around, I think it was like 10 years old, maybe he was 12, but it was a lot of fun. But he's aged since then, been through multiples of new challenges, and has built up so much wisdom in a 16-year-old body. So I'd love to ask you, what questions would you ask a 16-year-old elite athlete about overcoming challenges? You can email me at gabecox@redhotmindset.com to let me know, and I'll add those questions to the interview questions. We could all learn a lot from him. I do every day. I bet if you have kids, you can learn a lot from them too. Now, I'll leave you with this. What will you do when adversity comes your way next? Sometimes we are halted because God wants us to pivot, yes. But most of the time, I'd say it's a testing ground to see just how much grit we actually have. Pushing past those barriers matters in reaching our goals. Nothing in this life comes easy, but many things we work hard toward are worth it. See your goal through, friend. You'll be glad you did. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time and I hope you did too. Before we go though, if you resonate with this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or sharing it with a friend, as it helps grow the podcast. Also, if you're not a part of the Red Hot Accountability Club, what are you waiting for? It's a private online community away from the noise of social media that provides coaching, support, and encouragement as you go after your biggest goals in business or life in a stress-less, no-hustle kind of way. Inside the club, you will own your own results, hold yourself accountable, and lean on others for support. If you've been looking for a simple, off-social media way to grow, then this is it. Head on over to redhotmindset.com/RHA to learn more and join us today. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/RHA. And I can't wait to welcome you into the club. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you.